And finally,
oh my gosh, I can't believe it's our last
Bentley. Love Mark.
presentation.
Oh my gosh.
Yay, Mark.
Yay.
You read it.
We were just sharing about you, Mark, how special you are and what a leader you are for us and this whole tribe, because if it wasn't for you, we really wouldn't be here. Honest to God, it's because of Mark and because of Devin and, just all this teamwork and your brilliance and your heart, your vision, your wisdom, your genius. So Mark is a Gene Keys ambassador. And we are going to discover how to use your Healy I Ching database to scan and discover which gene keys are most resonant with bringing yourself into alignment and your intention. So there is just so much to share here. Can't wait to hear from Mark, our final speaker of the night. We're going to go out with a bang. And where are you, Mark? There he is.
Good morning from the future.
Hi, Mark.
Hey,
So good to see
I made
you.
it just on time. I used to have this saying back in my more chaotic days that if you're early, you're wasting time. But in this case, sorry, I wasn't a bit earlier.
No,
That's all right.
all good.
Yeah, I'm just checking on.
Thank you for being
Nice.
here.
Mhm.
Fantastic. So how's everyone been going? How's the day been?
It's been a really great day.
It has
It's been
been
very full.
full.
Yes.
Great.
And it's still
Yeah.
sunny. It's the longest day. It's
longest
like
day.
it's 8 o'clock and the sun is still up, which is lovely. And it's like the shortest day of the year for you, right?
Yeah, we're on the opposite side, so it's the shortest day of the year here.
Yeah.
But,
Fascinating. So fascinating.
we're holding down the hermit side. All right, fantastic. Well, all right, well, we'll jump in because I know you guys have been going through a lot already, and it's a great intro going through with Devin and human design and dropping into all of that first, because what we're about to work with, the I Ching, is deeply connected to human design, the gene keys, and in the end is all about personal transformation. When we look at the journey we're going through right now, the world all around us is just, we're in this deep kind of essence of chaos. And when we look at that through the lens of the gene keys or the I Ching database we're about to drop into is really what they used to call the Book of Changes. It's a system that they used to use 5,000 years ago to be able to find their way through turbulence, through change. And so there's no better time than right now to be able to actually reconnect to that ancient wisdom, because right now we have this field of chaos. And when we look at that through the lens of the I Ching or through the gene keys, this chaos actually serves a purpose. It serves a purpose to break up the grip that the old world has so that we can actually loosen that up. And a bit like Lego, when a kid creates Lego out there in the world, they buy these Lego sets and they put it together. And then you've got this beautiful Lego set, but now no one wants to break it down. No one wants to build anything new with it. They want to keep that Lego set. And so one of the best things that can sometimes happen for a kid with their Lego is if they drop it and smash it. And so if you guys could just mute they're beautiful, thank you. And so when that Lego gets broken, that they're so attached to, so connected to, all of a sudden you've got loose Lego pieces, you've got chaos because the instructions have long been lost. And all of a sudden it's like, I need to rebuild this. And so then what we give is that child a chance to have the innocence to look at these Lego pieces fresh without being told how it's meant to look, without being told what the instruction manual says you're supposed to do. So the beauty of this is now this child has the innocence to be able to innovate, to create, to build something new, something fresh, more appropriate to where that child's at now. And in that sense, in the world, that's where we're at. We are seeing the collective basically have a tantrum and smash all the Lego sets we've built. All the instructions we've been following for hundreds and thousands of years to get to this point, we're just smashing them everywhere. And that's terrifying. That can be scary if we don't have anything to connect to. And because it's disorder, it's chaos. But what we really have right now, if we shift our perception, is an incredible, chance to be able to innovate, to work together, to recreate and rebuild, what we want for the world we're going forwards. So that's why I'm super excited and super grateful for being able to be here today and with all of you beautiful people to talk about the I Ching. And the I Ching program, those of you that have Healys, then you've got access to that through the Resonance app. And we're going to drop into that towards the end of the session and show a demonstration of how you use the Healy together with the I Ching and the Gene Keys work to get a real simple way to be able to get some support in dealing with change. So now, before we jump on to actually doing the demonstration, the first thing I want to do is actually give you a background understanding of what we're dealing with and what you actually have in the Healy, in the Resonance app there with that I Ching database. So I've put together some slides, and which I always love having slides to give a bit of a visual. You'll see it's, I am a bit of a storyteller in the way that I can go round and round and round to get to the point. And it's, I feel like storytelling is one of these things that we're missing in the world right now. And so that's why I love slides. The graphics give those, just like a child reading a storybook, it gives us something for the right brain and the left brain to play with. So with that, Ashley,
Mark,
would you be able to?
I need to make you a
Yeah,
host.
beautiful.
So let's see, why am I not seeing it here?
Why are you doing that?
You just have to click on where's
Where's
his name.
I know, I don't see it up top. I don't know why I'm not seeing. Oh, wait a minute. Let me unpin you for a moment. Okay,
There
I
it
see
is.
you now. Okay, that's why. Make you a host. There you go. It's all you.
Yay. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. So what I'll do now is let me just set up the screen sharing here. Let's get the fancy. Bear with me a moment here. And there we go. All right. Oops, what happened there? Just bear with me 2 seconds while I get the view right. Huh. I'll tell you what, there we go. Okay, so now that I've done that, does everyone see the slides okay? I'll have my chat open there. All right, so if someone can just pop in the chat, let me know that you can see that okay. And while you're doing that, I'll just go on as if you can. So awesome, thanks. Cheers, Aubrey. So now when we're looking at the I Ching program, the database that's in the back of those that have the Healy resonance, we're looking at a system of divination, a system of dealing with change that is about over 5,000 years old. So we're not looking at something that was just whipped up in the last 20 years. We're looking at something that has a deep history in culture. And it actually starts in China. So about 5,000 years ago, the Emperor Wu of Han was one that gave this knowledge of the I Ching, the official name of Zhu Yi, which is the mysterious knowledge, also known as the first among the classics. So this I Ching was discovered and brought into the Chinese emperors, and what they were basically using it for was as an emperor, as being in charge of all of these people, out there in your kingdom. They would always have to deal with challenges. If a famine came, if any kind of weather came, if someone rose up and challenged them, there was always power struggles. There was always something going on in the world causing change, causing transformation. So the emperors would have their wise men who they would check in with, and they would use the I Ching as a way of divinating with to find out what is going on, what is it that's being disrupted within our community, and how can we bring resolution? How can we move through this change in the most graceful, efficient way possible, to move forwards and bring things into unity? So the I Ching has been used for a long time to deal with change. And the story goes is that it originally started about, oops, I took the slide out. There's a giant turtle in one of the slides I used to use. The story goes that the way they came across the I Ching was there was one of the old wise men over 5,000 years ago walking along the beach in China. And as he was walking along the beach, he had one of these moments of satori, of awakening, and he saw a tortoise that had come up onto the beach. And as he was sitting there looking at the back of the turtle shell, he began to see all the patterns. And you'll see this in many cultures. The Mayans as well had a deep connection to the tortoise shell. Because when you look at the back of a tortoise shell, you see the sacred mathematics of life. And so this wise, white wisdom keeper that was walking on this beach, he looked at the back of the tortoise shell, and then suddenly it started activating and awakening this knowledge, this wisdom that he began to access and bring through. And so that was the beginning of the I Ching. It began in nature, it was interpreted, and now it still is with us today as frequencies that we can use to help reconnect us back to our natural state of transformation. So with that being said, if you have a look here, the hexagrams. So when you do a scan, if you're using the Healy resonance, or if you're throwing coins, or however you come up with your hexagrams, when you're dealing with the I Ching, you're dealing with these symbols that are called hexagrams. Now, there's 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. So if you have a look at that picture that's on the slide there, at the top of the white box on the left, you'll see 6 lines. It's what we call a broken line, where there's a line with a gap in the middle, and a solid line. Now, that symbol there, broken, solid, broken, 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 is one symbol. Now, that is known as, those lines are known as feminine and masculine. So the broken line with a gap in the middle is feminine. It means there's movement. It means there's flow in that sense through that line. And where the line is solid, it's masculine. It's strong. It's rigid in that sense. Now, this is not men and women. This is masculine, feminine energy that they looked at as being essentially the binary of creation. As these elements come into place, they create codes. So that's what a hexagram is made of in the I Ching. And if you start working with human design and the gene keys work, you'll actually see that these hexagrams are underlying all of it. So whenever you say 64th gate or 64th key, for example, we're talking about the 64th hexagram of the I Ching, which then brings us to why this is so important and why what we're dealing with here is so fascinating. Because when you look at the wheel on the left in this slide, you're looking at the DNA codon wheel that you would find in a laboratory that studies DNA. So this was discovered in 1953. So putting that into context, this was discovered about 70 years ago. So about 70 years ago, we started being able to read DNA, actually interpret what it's saying. And that codon wheel is how DNA codes. It's the programming language of DNA. And when you look in the center of the wheel, you'll see these letters G, T, A, C in those yellow, red, green, blue center circle. Now, that is the 4' inner center units that code everything in DNA. It's made up of G, T, A, or C, and various combinations of that. And so as you look at that wheel, you take one letter from the inside wheel, one letter from the second wheel on the going outwards, and then one letter from the third, and you start creating amino acids and proteins. And that's how the DNA starts coding and making its body work, making your body respond and create and do all its magic. So what we're seeing on the left is the coding language of DNA, our coding language of our experience here in being human. So what makes this even more fascinating when we look at the I Ching is see the wheel on the right, and immediately when you look at that, so if you look at the center of the wheel on the right, it's the wheel of the I Ching. And this is how those hexagrams are put together. So the hexagrams are built in what we call doublets and triplets, just like DNA. And the wheel that puts together how you make these hexagrams, if you look closely there, in the first 3 rings, which are the important ones in this wheel, they are exactly the same as the DNA codon wheel. So what we're starting to see, and a lot of people out there are starting to study and research and go deeper into, is it looks like that for 5,000 years, we have had the coding manual for DNA, for our human form and for our human existence. We just hadn't connected the dots. So the ancient Chinese, just like so many of the wisdom keepers of the world, have been working intuitively with the human vehicle and its design without really realizing exactly how precise we're on this. So I love this slide because for me, it was one of the big aha moments where I started seeing science and spirituality bridging, where we start seeing the understandings being actually coming through. So Now, with that all in mind, this then brings us to what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to show you how you can use the gene keys work, the transmission of the gene keys from Richard Rudd, to be able to interpret the results you get when you scan on the Healy app. So when you scan with the Healy app, the resonance on the I Ching, you'll get yourself a report that lets you know what keys are most relevant. And so what we're looking at here is how you can use the gene keys rather than the I Ching. Because when you look at the I Ching translations in the back of the Healy app when you scan, they're complex. And they're not, complex isn't even in the word. You see, the I Ching has always been a very mysterious transmission. And it's been important actually over the 5,000 years that it's been around, you know, that because we can't just give answers. I mean, how many of you have tried to, when you see someone struggling, just give them a direct answer? And how many times have you seen them resist it or just not be able to accept it or take it? You know, it's like trying to give a child medicine. Sometimes you got to give a little honey for it to go down, right? And so the I Ching was kind of a puzzle. It was very cryptic in that way because it was actually calling for you to do the work, the contemplation, to be able to unlock the secrets of that work. Now, in the modern day world that we're in, and for many of us, it's very challenging to take the time to give the I Ching the full kind of contemplative time, the practice that really is what we need to unlock it through that method. So what I want to show you is how you can use the gene keys to be able to look up in a much simpler way, a much more right brain, creative, easier to digest in our modern day way. But first, we get a little bit of the history, which Richard Rudd, I love this quote of his, "You alone are the architect of your evolution." And we're about to look into exactly why that is. So Richard Rudd is an incredible man. He's from England. He's a humble English poet. He's a mystic. He's a family man. He's very down to earth, very grounded. And I'm very humbled and stoked to say a dear friend of mine now after 9 years or so with working with this work. And I've had the opportunity to travel the world, visiting some of the workshops he's been at and the people and the rest. And the community that gathers around this work is just mind-blowing. It really is amazing. So Richard worked with human design originally. He was one of the big teachers that was sharing a lot of work. And then he began to receive and synthesize the gene keys transmission in 2002. So it was about 21 years ago, or about 20 years ago. And through that time, he then wrote something called the Gene Keys book that then evolved into a profile, what he calls a hologenetic profile that you can use, and a journey that you can use to actually unlock the genius that's hiding in your DNA. So we're just going to go over some essential, quintessential basics with the Gene Keys. We're not going to go into a deep dive of how to read your profile and those things, but we will cover some essentials that will get you started. So if you don't have a Healy and you haven't got access to one at the moment, you can still make the most of this work. The Gene Keys is incredible and game changing. But one of the things I really want to talk about, because we are talking about this in relation to the Healy device, which is the amazing little frequency device that actually unites us in bringing us to this moment. And when we say often everything is frequency, everything is energy, and it really is. We're starting to see that. Science is starting to acknowledge that. And by the way, if you don't have the resonance, if you have a model under that doesn't have access to the resonance app, then you can actually get that on subscription. So you can subscribe it by the month. You can get it just for 1 month and try it out, check it out, and have fun with it. And if you like it, then you can upgrade it whenever you're ready. So for those that are there that don't have that opportunity, it is within reach in that sense. But getting to the point of the frequency band, because this is where things get exciting, is you saw that what we talked about with the I Ching being the 64 codons of our DNA. It's the 64-bit programming code of our human form and how we express here in the world. Now, each one of those bits, each one of those codes in the language, each key has what we call a frequency band. So our DNA has a frequency band. And so when we say DNA has a frequency band, and I'm just going to stop here for a second so that I can, speak to you directly about this. When we're looking at the frequency band of our DNA, we essentially, as the Gene Keys would say, we call it the shadow to the city. So the lowest frequency of our DNA is what we call the shadow frequency. And the highest is what we call the city. So like the citic state, it's like the superpower. We really do have superpower kind of built into our human form that we unlock over time through our process. Now, these shadow states, when our DNA goes through fear, when we experience any kind of lack or fear or not being safe, we have built into the back of our brain, that reptilian part of our brain that's ancient, a survival mechanism that's actually there to protect us, to make sure that we evolve past, the caveman days. Because if in these shadow frequencies like greed, conflict, whatever it is, dishonesty, these shadows of human nature, they were essential for us to get over the starting block of life as we were evolving into the world. But what's happening is in the world right now, we use fear for marketing, right? You learn that in school, straight off the bat. There's no secret to this. People use fear. They create a sensation of lack, of insecurity, of something that in turn makes it possible to be able to sell to people. Because what happens? You go into that part of your brain, the rear part of your brain, which is on autopilot. And so then that autopilot is running survival mechanisms, because when you need to survive, there's a dinosaur trying to eat you, right? Then you don't have time to think logically and process creatively. You just need to get out of there immediately, get into safety, and then process it. So what happens in the world right now is fear is being used by all the news outlets, used by all the marketing, it's used by everything. And a lot of the time we use it in our own relationships out of insecurity to keep our partners around, to keep our family. There's all kinds of areas. So the byproduct that I don't think people thought about when they brought this concept into the world is that we're keeping these shadow natures alive and awake. We are triggering the shadow frequency band everywhere. And so what's actually happening when we get triggered is, if you imagine DNA, so I'm sure everyone's seen a DNA strand, those beautiful spirals that are often graphically presented. When we experience fear, DNA tightens, it kind of pulls together. And DNA, when it's expressing itself fully, when we're enlightened, when we're feeling at peace, when we're in those nicer stages, DNA is actually stretched out, physically stretched out. And it emits photons. So it emits the particles of light, then go out into the world. So that's why we'd see saints in the world, drawn with halos and glows around them, is people perceive them. They actually saw them glowing because they had light emitting from their DNA, which is a form of communication. That light that comes out just as the sun communicates with the earth in that way. But then when we experience fear, that DNA tightens and the photons shut down. And the reason it does that is because a saint is no good to the world if a dinosaur has eaten him or her, right? So the idea is that when there is danger, DNA goes into protection mechanism for the physical form and tightens up, turns off the lights, and pretends no one's home. So that when animals went past in the old days, they wouldn't notice you lying on the ground, that you were playing dead, basically. And so that's what DNA does, is it shuts down, goes into survival, and tries to protect itself. So when we're working with the Healy, when we're working with the gene keys or the I Ching, we're working with frequency. We're working with what are the shadow frequencies? What are these patterns that are being fired up inside us when we're trying to achieve our goals? And how can we lift that frequency so that we can shift the way we are working with our reality, and in turn then be able to create the reality that we came here for? And so this is a really powerful thing once we begin to take responsibility for this, because when we look outwardly to try and change everyone else's shadow frequencies, we're coming from our own, and it just creates a endless loop in that sense. So just popping on back to the share screen now. Let's see if this, yay, that went easy. Awesome. So that's the frequency band we're working with. And when we say this, remember, that's literally how our DNA is working. You can look up into the studies and things. DNA tightens and it relaxes. And it all gets done through stress or relaxation. Is kind of the quintessential basics. And just a little bit more on here, that because when you get a Gene Keys profile, any of you that have had an experience with it, and if you have had an experience with the Gene Keys, just pop it in the chat and let me know how many of you are into it and how many aren't. It's always good to have a kind of general feed on that. And if you've been playing with the gene keys, you'll see that you get a key and it has 3 words: shadow, gift, and city. And that's the 3 words relating to the different frequency bands of your profile of this certain aspect. Now, when you look at a shadow, people often have looked at shadow work as something like, people often feel like it's something sticky, this kind of something to be ashamed of that you have to get rid of. And that's part of the problem, is when you push away your shadow, it will go down, just like in society. You push away the shadow of society, it goes deep and starts to fester and will come back. And it will come back when it builds enough strength and cause a lot of problem in society. Awesome. So I see Trish, you got 0% knowledge. That's actually one of my favorite places to start, because that's where we get to start with a blank canvas, and there's a lot of magic here. And Alice, you've been using it as well. Fantastic. Yes, I use it with human design as well. I find the 2 of them are just 2 languages that work beautifully in different places. So the way to look at shadow is to really see it as a remnant of the past that's helping us to get to the future. So when you look at this slide, you see the old cruise there with the caveman kind of concept. The shadow is a remnant of the past that's there to help us survive when there wasn't enough food for everyone. So if you were being compassionate, caring, and sharing and everything back in those caveman days, everyone would have died if that's how everyone was being, because there wasn't enough food for everyone. There wasn't enough for everything. We didn't have the technology to gather. We didn't have fridges. We didn't have storage the way that we have now, So these shadow frequencies were important. They got it. And it's not pretty to think about. None of us would have wanted to live back in those days, but that was what got us here. And it's still hanging around anytime we regress back to those moments. The gift frequency is the present moment. It's where we're aiming to be in the now, right here. The gift frequency is available to us right now in the world, and it's how we begin to mend. I think it's kintsugi, this Japanese art, which you can see here, of where when a bowl broke, many would panic and make a big deal and throw it out, thinking, oh, that was my favorite bowl, now it's ruined. Whereas this art form of kintsugi, I'm trying to say Japanese and Australian accent is always tricky. This kintsugi is what they would do is they'd take the broken pieces and they would use gold, like actual gold melted, to mend and glue those pieces back together. So a bowl that has been mended like this in the process of kintsugi with gold becomes much more valuable than a normal bowl. And you can understand this when you look at that bowl and you think, wow, there's a story to that bowl. There's someone put so much love and attention and time into bringing that together. And it's got gold in between the cracks, pure gold that is bonding it. And so that bowl becomes a piece of art from chaos. And so the gift frequency in your profile, your Gene Keys profile, or whenever you're working with the I Ching and the Gene Keys, the gift frequency is giving us clues on how we are personally designed, or what service will help us bring our wounding, bring our brokenness back together to mend and connect and create value with our previous wounding, our previous brokenness that comes from the shadow, comes in and feeds the gift. And the gift is our service to the world. It's how we can mend it all. Now, as we go through this, you'll see these higher state words in your profiles that are very, they're very powerful to drop into and call in and work with in our lives, but it's not something we need to aim to embody. The acidic state in your Gene Keys profile is the highest expression of your genetic makeup of DNA. So if the shadow is the survival mechanism of the start of the evolution of humanity, the acidic state represents the maturing and the flowering of humanity into its enlightened state as it becomes unified back into one. And so it represents the future in that sense. It represents what we're moving towards. And the beauty of this work is that the shadow contains the gift, contains the city. It's a hologenetic process. It's a holographic process, meaning that the shadow is not separate from the city, from the superpower, from the gift. They're actually the same thing, right? And this is important to understand, because if you try to push your shadows away, you're also pushing your gift away, you're pushing your city away, right? Just like a friend, when a friend, you might have a loved one who they're just being really annoying one day, and just really shit stirring, and they're a pain in the ass, and you just, I don't want to talk to you. But if you push them out of your life completely, you've now also pushed out all the fun times you've had with that person, all the magic you could create if you can work out, your relationship. There's a lot of beautiful things that come with that person. So that's the idea of really embodying this, is being able to bring in and integrate the shadow to understand why this person is frustrating and annoying. Why are they hitting your triggers? Because then we can start working in service. We can start co-creating, and 1 + 1 = 3, not 2, right? We can start actually growing exponentially together as a collective. But it all starts with each of us taking self-responsibility to heal this gift. So just a quick overview of the gene keys. Richard calls this the spectrum of consciousness. So it's the 64-bit programming code of consciousness in DNA. This is just one example, the 8th gene key. So anywhere you see the 8th hexagram in the I Ching, this is what it's relating to, the 8th gene key, which is known as the diamond of the self. And you can see the diagram there of the different 64 and their shadows and gifts. But just focusing on this 8th gene key, the shadow, which is the challenge to be evolved, is mediocrity. So mediocrity is where you hide yourself, hide your style, hide your uniqueness through being mediocre, just matching up with everyone else around you. And then the gift of this 8th gene key. So when this person who embodies this or is working with this feels safe, feels like they're in a creative state, that they're not needing to protect themselves, they can begin to allow their style to come out into the world, to explore their own style and unlock the potential of that. And then as they begin to really work with their own personal style in the world, that in turn begins to unlock and give moments of exquisiteness. So this 8th gene key is here to be exquisite. It's here to just fully blow your mind in awe of someone's unique style. And that is a deep evolutionary power that can be brought in. So what we can see is if you're working with the 8th gene key, or if you have that in your profile and you look at what theme it's related to, then when you look at this, you can see, for example, I have this 8th gene key in what's known as my SQ, my spiritual quotient of my profile, which is about my inner child. It's about how I express my deeper spirituality as in my playfulness and lightness in the world. And it shows me that one of the shadows, that if I feel unsafe, if my inner child feels unsafe, then I begin to generate the field of mediocrity. I hide myself in being mediocre. I hide my unique style and my exquisiteness and try to blend in with everyone else, which in turn drains my energy, but it protects me because it doesn't get attention. But it also means that my style and my essence that is here to just bubble out and be alive and influence the world is shut down. So by being able to understand this in my life, it's really helped me to understand what it takes for me to, and I need to step into this beauty, this magic. And when people see mediocrity and they think, oh, I've got my style, I'm exquisite, I know what I'm doing. Mediocrity isn't just, people often in the alternative communities would say, oh, that's that world. I've got my style, I'm unique. And I used to be like this. And I was walking around in my fisherman pants and I was kind of in my alternative clothing and everything. And then suddenly I realized, wow, I look like a lot of other people that are saying the same story, that are saying the same rebellion, that are saying, I am a rebel, I am against mediocrity, I am against the mundane. Yet ironically, more and more people were kind of dressing, looking, and it became a kind of a style that was associated with a way of being that wasn't actually unique necessarily. For some it was, but it wasn't my actual style. It wasn't my exquisiteness. I was taking on another costume that I was being mediocre in the spiritual community to blend in, to feel safe. And so this last 2 years, this 8th gene key has actually been one of my deepest contemplations as I've pulled away from the world to kind of reconnect with what is my style? What is that part of my inner child and how does it want to express itself? So this key has been a very powerful one for me. So that gives you a bit of a feel for how you can work with these gene keys in your profile. And they take time, to bring forwards. Now, the last part we're going into before we dive into how to use your resonance is epigenetics. So the science of epigenetics is the study of how the perception of our environment affects the way our DNA responds and manifests. So what we're saying is that for many years, scientists, biologists, etc., geneticists believe that we were victims of our DNA. I'm sure many of you have heard that concept. You know, it's like in the earlier years, that was what you got taught in school. DNA has already mapped out who you are and what you're going to be, and you're a victim to your DNA. Now, science has changed. And what they're discovering is that the way you perceive your reality and things in your reality affect the way your DNA behaves. And in turn, which parts of it activates and which parts it doesn't. So we're starting to see that what you focus on is, as all of the spiritual teachings have always taught, is super, super important. Because what you focus on is what your DNA, your brain interprets is in your reality. It sends the messages to your DNA throughout your body, and that's what your DNA then responds to. So if you're looking at the world and you're seeing danger, it doesn't mean there is danger. You know, someone who has problems being out in public, they've got anxiety around, people, etc. Then what's happening is when they're in a gathering, when they look out and see people laughing and joking around, having a good time, they're putting it through their filters in their brain, which comes from their past upbringing and their past experiences. Now, if they had traumatic experiences in their younger years and maybe they were teased and bullied and who knows what could have happened, then when they're seeing this happy, positive gathering that others might love, it's going through this filter. And what they're seeing is danger. Because in the past, when they saw this, they might have had somebody turn on them. The cool kid in the group might have turned around and teased them or abused them or something. So that means that they're having a hard time relaxing and enjoying this event because their defense mechanisms kick in. So it's not logical anymore. You can say to them, oh, relax, it's fine. They're not thinking logically in that moment. It's going to that defense mechanism. That defense mechanism is sending signals, which is the process of epigenetics, down to your DNA and saying, hey, DNA, I'm in danger. There's a dinosaur in this room somewhere, and I can't even see which one's the dinosaur. I don't feel safe at all. How do I protect myself? And the DNA says, well, this is our program. We've got these protection mechanisms, the shadow states. Let's kick them into gear. So for some people, they become provocative. Some keys are very provocative. Others they will shut down and go quiet and play dead. Some will run away and get out of that experience. We all have different ways we'll deal with it. But the point of this conversation is that it's the perception that is the issue in this case. Assuming this gathering, this person is a safe gathering, that everyone is getting along, because sometimes there's real danger. And this is why you don't want to get rid of your shadows. If there's real danger, if there is really something going on, you want your shadow frequencies to be there to protect you. That's what they're there for. But we want them to serve their purpose, not to run our daily lives. And so the whole beauty of working with the gene keys and I Ching and human design and these other modalities, as well as using the Healy, is to be able to give a framework to shift our perception, to change the way we are perceiving our reality so that we can allow peace and calmness into our body, into our DNA, so that we can stop preemptively triggering our survival mechanisms and actually begin to be a lot more creative in the way we move in the world. And again, bringing it back to things like marketing and all the rest, politics and things, they all use fear to control. You look at any election campaign, they don't talk about the beautiful, positive, connection they can create in your country. They talk about how crap the other person is. They talk about all the bad things the other person's going to do, which is going to make your life so hard. And in doing so, they're using fear, just like everyone else, to try and control and get you to do something. And again, the reason this is a problem beyond politics is it's using, epigenetics means that we're going into fear. And just like this picture, when you go into fear, no matter how amazing your situation, no matter how abundant, no matter how rich, no matter how full of love all around, when your body goes into fear, it sees desert, it sees death, it sees daunting challenges that spell the end, and stress cranks up, adrenals crank up. And so it's by shifting that perception, by seeing, potential around you, by seeing possibilities every time something breaks, or every time something doesn't go right, an event you're trying to run, or someone you're connecting to, or a relationship, every time it breaks. If you can twist that around and see the beauty in the shadow, if you can see the potential, like that kintsugi bowl being repaired with gold, it's an opportunity to use gold in your life to repair, to join, and bring it back and make it even more beautiful with a story to tell. Because we're storytellers in life. And we need these challenges to overcome. It's not about removing the challenge or the discomfort in life, but it's about removing the stress response. And that in turn changes our DNA. So just last little bits here, the hologenetic profile. So if you haven't ever seen this work, if this is brand new to you, or if you've heard of it and never seen your profile, then you can get your free profile. I've got an affiliate link. I'm a Gene Keys ambassador. I've been working with it for about 9 years. And this is actually my first public sharing of the Gene Keys in about over a year, I think. And I've been in kind of questioning, what's important in my life, what I'll be sharing, where I'm going to continue going. And out of that cauldron, the Gene Keys came really strong as being what I'm coming back into continuing and really bringing out. It's been the most effective framework that I've seen in my life and others to make change. So this is something I'm going to be sharing a lot more about in the future. And I want to say thank you to all of you for being here and actually being part of my reconnection to the world and bringing this out. But if you want to get your profile, you can get it. My affiliate link is markbentley.live/free profile. So it's pretty straightforward. Chuck that into the browser, put in your birth data, and it will give you a profile, and it gives you a great starter, some paragraphs to get you started. There's heaps of resources on the website. There's courses you can do. When you look at your profile, it's made up of 3 parts. There's the purpose, the partnership, and prosperity. So you begin by looking at the activation sequence, which is, what is your purpose? How is your DNA built to express purpose in the world? What is your service? And what are the challenges that are going to cause turbulence in how you do that? What are the challenges that are going to make it hard for you to stay stable in your life and solid and radiate your light? So I'll just pop in here into the thing for you guys, the website. And then there you go, Trisha. So I've just popped it in the chat, the link that you can use to get the free profile. So that's your purpose, and that's grounding in the body. And then you move to partnership, which is all about, how you relate, because humans are built for connection. So partnership is your friends, your lovers, everything. It deals with your sexuality. It deals with your creativity. It deals with how we interact with the world around us. And it is one of the juiciest, deepest transmissions that I've ever worked with, and highly recommend. So that then brings us to the Pearl sequence, which is a 3rd part. And Trisha saying it's hidden in the photo. Thanks for letting me know that. Is prosperity, the Pearl sequence, which is all about how are you designed to thrive and prosper in the world. So the Pearl sequence in your Gene Keys profile is about the new human. It's about the new marketplace. It's about the new way we are going to create economics and we are going to thrive. Because economics are simply the study of energy exchange within a reality. And so we're moving into a new time of economics. We're moving into a new way of prospering. And that's all coded in our DNA. And by using the hologenetic profile, we're able to drop into that and discover, how are you uniquely designed to contribute to this? So again, you might feel overwhelming when you first begin. Take your time, start at the beginning, and there's heaps of amazing resources. And reach out if you ever need any tips. So with that being said, let's get to the fun bit. Now, this is something I've actually never done a presentation on, and I'm really excited to do because I think it is one of the most untapped aspects of the Healy. Everyone that has the Healy Blue Dot app, which is what we call the Healy Advisor app, which is the Blue Dot, the Resonance app. It's the one that does the scanning. This I Ching program has been there from the beginning. It's actually the reason I bought a Healy? And I said yes. Was because when I recognized that, I'd seen it before, these frequencies elsewhere when I was in Bali with someone working with a frequency device called an SE5. And when I saw these, I realized that they were connected to the same people, which I love the frequency of these people that were bringing this forward. And I'd even actually been working with these gene keys or these hexagram frequencies in Bali. So now I'm super passionate about getting people to pay attention to it, to have a look at it and start playing with it. So what I'm going to get you to do is, for those of you that have the Blue Dot app, you can play along with me if you like. And I'm going to put this living library link. So I've just popped a link in the chat box. That's a website that will take you to the Gene Keys Living Library. It's a reference place so that you don't have to pay for all the courses and all the things in the beginning. You can simply use that living library as a reference. So I'm going to show you how that works. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to, for those of you that want to play along, get your Healys. Now you will need the Blue Dot app. So I'm going to now screen share and show you how you can use this Healy to scan against your intention and then use that to vibrate the frequencies as support into your field, into your information field, but also how you can use that to go to the living library and find some references that can help you with the mental understanding and contemplation of what's coming up. So the first thing you need is your Healy. We turn that on. Now let me just get my screen share up again. All right, so now that's just hooking up. Here we go. All right, so now the app that we want to open up for those that are playing along is the Healy Advisor Analyze, the Blue Dot app on the left that you can see here on the screen. So not the pink one, we'll click the blue one on the left. That's going to open up here. Click next past the notice. Of course, all disclaimers, everything we talk about here today is for storytelling and entertainment purpose only. There are no claims that this will fix you, make you superhuman, or any other kind of magic. But I like my storytelling. And I like to think that storytelling is becoming very real in the world out there. So now, what you're going to need to do now is click Resonance Analysis. So there's lots of different possibilities for those that might not have these icons on your Healy. They're different subscriptions or packages or things that you can access. And we're using the resonance analysis. Now I'm going to do a scan on myself. So this is where you'd pick yourself right now because you're doing a scan for yourself. If you're doing a client, you'd pick them. So I'm going to pick myself and it's going to look for your Healy and make sure it's turned on at this point while it's scanning. And there it is. So once it's turned up, you give that a click and it's now going to connect. So that's the mobile device connecting to the Healy itself now. All right. Awesome. Now, once we're in here, what's actually really interesting with this is see where the focus statement says, with what do I have the greatest resonance now? A focus statement is really important when you're doing scans. What we've got here is a generic focus statement. So it's a general focus statement that works in general with, okay, what am I in the greatest resonance with now? That's absolutely fine to work with. But remember that when you scan, whatever the results that come up are relating directly to your focus. The Healy is working with your focus. And so the reason for this is, so this is where actually having a focused focus. So for example, I flow gracefully through my day-to-day life with abundance. You know, that might be your focus. And what you want to think about is, what is the feeling you want to anchor? It might be, I am confident in social interactions. If you're having challenges with social interactions, you want to set your focus statement as if it's happening, as if it is what the situation is right now, of what the condition is, not I would like to be, or I wish that I was. Your focus is to be written as happening already. And the reason for this is when you set that focus. So, I mean, do it right now. Think, I am rich and have millions of dollars. Most people, what's going to happen is as soon as you set that intention, your subconscious is going to fire all of these noises in the background that go, no, you don't. No, you don't. You can't make, what do you don't make that money. That's rich people. Rich people have that money. And if you had that money, you'd be a bad person. All these kinds of niggly subconscious patterns kind of bubble in the background, these old programs from our upbringing, our old wounding, etc. So even though on the surface, we feel like we're focusing our attention, in the back end, we actually have a lot of things getting in the way of manifesting what it is we want in our world. And so by focusing on a statement of what you want, you're actually bringing that to the surface, but you're also bringing anything that's getting in the way to the surface with it. And then what the Healy does when you run a scan is it's able to scan your frequencies and pick up on what they are, and then give you support through frequency to help bring them back into balance, as well as to give you mental insights to help reprogram that code, and in very specifically to you and the intention you're trying to achieve. So that's why the focus statement is so important and will make the difference between the results that you get. Because if you're going on, for example, trying to do 3 readings in a row to test the machine to see if it's going to work, guess what your focus statement is? It's, I'm going to test if this thing works. It's not, I flow with my day in grace and abundance. So this is where focus statements are super important with any scans you do on the Healy. So we're going to, I'm going to use the focus statement of, let's see. I mean, I'll throw it to you guys. If you think of your focus statement, throw it in the chat there. I'm going to keep a real simple one of, I wake up each morning inspired with clear direction. So that's my intention. I wake up each morning inspired with clear direction. That's something that I would love to have, a nice pop out straight to it. So that's my focus statement. So whatever my results are will be in relation to that. We then go to database selection. Now, there's lots of databases here. It can be very overwhelming for many. So just blank them out and scroll down near the bottom. I think it'll be on most people's, and you'll see I Ching. And see how it says 64 in brackets? That's because there's 64 hexagrams and 64 possible entries that can come up. So we're going to click that there. Now, here is where we hold that focus statement. So if you've gotten to that point, pick the I Ching, and now what we're going to do is click Start Analysis. You don't need to hold the Healy in your hand. You can do distance with this, etc. But I still like to hold it because it helps me keep my focus, because it means this is what I'm focusing on right now. So I wake up each morning inspired with clear direction. That's my state of focus. Whoever else is joining me in scanning, you can do the same. And then we click Start Analysis. You're going to put your finger on that. By the way, this doesn't take fingerprints. The phones don't even have the capacity for that. It simply is to hold your focus and attention so you're not thinking about everything else around. So bringing that in and putting your finger on. Okay, so you saw it there scanning and picking up on the different frequencies. And then now I'm going to be quite transparent here and vulnerable and showing you my results without me seeing them. So this is where, when you look at this chart, again, let's keep this simple because it's very easy to get complex. You can see deep meanings in the I Ching in this. We're not going to go there. We're going to go straight, especially looking at the time, we're going to go straight to the gene keys. So you see here, the top result for me with 49%, if you go past the desired state where it says, with the power of divine consciousness, I now transfer all selected qualities and information to the field of the client. May they work for the highest well-being of the whole until an optimal balance for the client has been achieved. Thank you. That's the kind of generic intention. And then it adds the personalized part for your reading. So in my case, I have the 53. So you see the number 53, Xian, development. Now, the I Ching approach symbolizes development and indicates a steady, slow, but safe development. Now, to get more creative and easier to interpret, because some of these will click with you, like that makes sense to me, but others are a little bit abstract sometimes, you'll find when you scan. So let's look at how we can do this another way. So what I want you to do is, those of you that did the scan just now, take your top result, just the top result. You will go down and see there's others, but I just want you to focus on one today, because in the end, it gets too complex. So we take the top one. I've got 53. So we're going to stop the share there now. And this is the last piece of the puzzle, which I just have to get my browser. Where did that browser go? Here it is. All right. So now this is where I want you to take that number and go to, well, you can go to markbentley.live/living library. The link's in the chat. I'll bring up that website now. And this is where the fun part starts. So this is the Gene Keys Living Library. It's an amazing free resource. You just scroll down a little bit to navigate the 64 gene keys. If you want to, you can go into all kinds of fun with random keys and intuition and things. But we're going to go to navigate the 64 keys and then choose your key that came up as a top scan. So for me, I had 53. So I just go to here to 53, give that a click. Now, this is where I get a contemplation. What Healy is saying, that the programming codon in my DNA that is reacting, that needs stabilizing in order to support myself going forwards, in being able to wake up inspired with clear direction in where I'm going each day, is the 53rd gene key. And that is talking about the journey from immaturity to superabundance through the process of expansion. So now I've got 3 keywords to work with: a shadow, a gift, and a city. So this shadow of immaturity is, the shadow of immaturity is about something not being quite ready yet. So one way that I can use this to contemplate, and so I'm going to give you the example from my intention, and then you can apply that to your own. So when I scanned and I got the 53rd gene key that comes up, and it's saying that this is something that will help support me by contemplating this, the way that I interpret that is, when I say in my intention, I want to wake up with, inspired and clear direction. I mean, that is essentially saying, for my career, for my day-to-day, for my work, because my life is my work is my life. I love what I do. But one of the challenges I find personally is not knowing what to work on next, because it feels like there's too much. I feel too expansive. I feel like there's so many things. And so what this key is saying is that there's a bit of the shadow of immaturity playing up in my field that is causing the challenge right now. And if I can work on that and breathe into that, then I will be able to get more clear on my direction. It will help me to get more inspiration and be more ready to pop out of bed, ready to go. And immaturity is it's like a apple tree trying to bloom and have 1,000 apples while it's still only 1 month old and still just a stick. And that means the apple tree first needs to get a solid trunk. It needs solid roots in the ground. It needs to mature and be ready to have the fruit. And so the way that I look at this is, if I want to expand and have clear direction, I need to anchor in and get strong roots in what it is I want to offer. I need to be clear. I need to allow my vision for what I want to bring forward to mature so that it can expand. And you've got lots of little tips you can use here. So one of the quotes from Richard: expansion comes without effort. It emerges naturally, slowly, quietly. It brings calm rather than excitement. It brings simplicity rather than complexity. It brings perspective rather than ambition. And it all comes through slowing down. So you can use these things as contemplations. Just that in itself would be enough to transform the way I go about my next days. Really, what I'm getting as a message right now from the Healy scan that's brought this key up is, I need to trust in slowing down, that there's not a rush to get everything up and going, that I don't need to push it. That yes, it's exciting, but excitement isn't what I should be chasing. As much as it's exciting to push and get out there, I should be really bringing it back, keeping things simple, get the roots in, and begin gradually and slowly and solid and earthed. So that is actually going to be something I'm going to take out of this session and work with. Just showing quickly, you've got things like click here to purchase the audio contemplation. If you click that, the audio contemplations are about $3.50 US each. They're Richard's, they're like 15 to 20 minute long audio verbal contemplations where he talks about the shadow of immaturity, the gift of expansion, and the city of superabundance, what that represents in a very beautiful way that's easy to connect to. So that's a powerful tool. If you want a little extra juice and you don't mind paying for it, then $3.50 for that. And for those that get right into this work, I cannot recommend the 64 Ways audio collection enough. It's $150 US for the full collection of all 64 audios for all the 64 gene keys. And what you do then is whenever a key comes up, you just pop onto that gene key. It'll actually show you a link here. I could actually play that normally when I'm logged in. You'll be able to just click on it straight away. Other resources you've got, the living library that they've put together is fantastic. You've got your gene key. You've got the victim pattern. So see on the bottom right here, victim of inability to complete, solemn or fickle. So this is a deep pattern that has absolutely sabotaged all of my work. The victim of inability to complete. So this is a pattern to look at for me now going, where am I seeing this victim pattern where I just can't complete something? Where am I feeling like I can never complete it? I never get it done. And this to me is speaking directly to my work right now with my website. I'm trying to get my website going to put my offerings on. And I was pushing, I was rushing, I was excited, and I just wanted to get it up so I could get to work. And then I realized it kept on sabotaging it. Couldn't get it to happen. And then it's because now I'm realizing this shadow of immaturity where I'm trying to rush something rather than get the roots in and clarity first has created an inability to complete it. And I've tried that website about 4 times in the last 5 years. And now it's becoming a solid thing for me to focus on. So this has given me actually quite a lot. So I appreciate you guys joining me in my session today. Again, you can come down and read Immaturity, the False Cult of the Individual. It gives you a little bit more contemplative material. Again, remember not to take things too literally when you're doing contemplative work, when you're working with things like gene keys. Use it as fuel for your contemplation to unlock your genius. Now, when we go down, you've got the gene key spectrum, you've got all these options, codon ring. You can click on the I Ching and see about the traditional I Ching and how it's put together and what it represents. Astrology, it's astrology that's related to. You can see the programming partner. All keys have a partner, like a yin to the yang, like that work together. And they're all related. So if you've got one, the other one also is related. So greed. I'm greedy for getting it all happening and getting it out there. I want it now. I want to be able to share. I want to connect. And there's a kind of element of greed in that with my immaturity, with getting my work out there. So this is really helping me understand, bring it back to aspiration, trust in the process, and breathe it into the world rather than push it. Integral human design is another thing out there for people. Dream arc. This is the one that I would recommend paying attention to. The dream arc is new. There's a new dream arc course with Rosie Aronson, beautiful human being, and Richard Roder put together with the community. This gives you the animal dream arc codex. So the relation. So for example, for the shadow frequency, the fear key is what relates to that. So in my case, it's to contemplate the serpent when it comes to immaturity. You know how the serpent sheds its skin as it's ready through its time. So if I want to contemplate the shadow, I will go to the serpent, and that can be an animal that I can work with to help me through that process. The life key, which is the gift frequency, is the rabbit, and then I can contemplate the spiritual medicine of a rabbit and what that means as another way of approaching the gift of expansion. And then the vision key, which is the city key, is the stork. So some of these look a bit abstract when you first look at it. And that's what's so much fun. You can then pop it in, simply open up a Google page and say, what is the spiritual meaning of a stork? And then contemplate that in relationship to superabundance. And then contemplate that in relationship to the intention I scanned against, which is I wake up inspired with clear direction each day. So that's how you can take this, and your crystal alphabet as well, ammonite. So ammonite is one of the old ancient crystals. So this is where you can get some little treats to contemplate to help you unlock what it is that's coming up in your Healy scan. So I hope that's helped. There's lots more there. There's all kinds of magic, all different keys, but we'll keep it there for now. Again, there's your free profile. That's where you can find courses and your resources. And there's a whole world waiting to be discovered. So with that, that's how you use your Healy. Also, remember that when you've done that scan, you can then click actions and vibrate the frequencies of that gene key that came up into your field to help support you while you're doing these contemplations. So you can really support from the deep frequency level, which is just game changing. So thank you, everyone. And sorry, I went a little bit over time on that one, but thank you for bearing with me and coming on that journey. And I hope shared a bit of magic.
It was so amazing. How long do you vibrate typically?
With the I Ching, I remember often when I'm doing it with that, I mean, there's two ways. There's essentially three kind of time frames you can use that we use often with the blue resonance in general. If it's something that you're working on that's like fresh up in your field right now that you're working on actively, then you can use it like homeopathics, just like we do with a lot of the others, and just run it for 37 point something seconds, whichever the 37 point something seconds one is, and run that like every hour or 6-7 times a day is one way of like just keeping it active. It's like homeopathics, again, just like that little pinch. But also what I like to do with I Ching, and there's no solid rules to this. We don't have any instruction manuals with how to deliver the frequencies on this. But the way that I personally like to work with it is when I get a good reading and I'm doing something is I'll first run it for 26 minutes and sit and receive it. And with frequency, you can be working and run it and you're going to receive the frequencies. But when you're dealing with something like the I Ching, I do recommend actually slowing down, maybe laying down. Like I lay down on my Shakti mat, the acupressure mats, and I'll put some binaural beats on and I'll lay back and then I'll vibrate the I Ching results. And I find that's the most conducive way to be open to really receiving that and allowing the DNA to focus on what's there rather than having to juggle the world at the same time.
Awesome. And do you do personal readings? Like one-on-one client?
Now.
You do?
Oh,
It's I have actually been doing it for the last year, but they've been very quiet and only word of mouth. So I kind of I literally, we talk about DNA. I turned my lights off on my porch essentially, and I went deep in. We've been working with Healy, working with you guys, Kristen and Ashley guys, been amazing. It's been a very earthing thing for me to stay. Some of the few people I stayed connected with, and it was a deep process to really question because I didn't like the way I was going out in the past. And now I'm really feeling more than ever clarity that this work is so important, to give people a framework that's dogma free, that allows you to be able to really step up and own your genius and discover what that is right now. Because we need that more than anything. We just need everyone in the world to start turning their lights on and start shining their light. So yes, I'm now doing sessions and the website will be up soon. And we'll be doing a little bit of both, a little bit of gene keys, a little bit of human design, and having a lot of fun.
oh my God. Expect to be
Yes.
really busy, Mark.
And Mark is in the Vibe Tribe. Guys, if you're not in the Vibe Tribe, well, you need to be.
Yes.
You need to be. Thank you,
Oh
Mark.
my gosh.
This was so amazing.
That was
Hey,
really
honestly, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And the Vibe Tribe, like I've said to you guys before, I genuinely mean it. You are an inspiration. It's the crew, all of you that gather here. It's been such a healing thing for me to feel safe in community. There's been a part of me that's not really wanted to come into that world. And so to come in amongst all of you has been super healing. It's been inspiring. And yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're getting into Healy and the rest, then you don't get much better than this mob.
Aw,
thank
thank you.
you.
I can't believe this day is over.
I know. I don't know if Mark, you're pinned. I'm not sure, but I'm trying to.
Can you just unpin?
Yes, there you
Yeah,
go. And
there
I'll
we
give you back hosting
Oh,
too.
Oh,
look at our candles.
yeah.
Aw.
Now you can see them. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Thank you all for being here
Mm.
today. We have been planning this for such a long time, and what a action-packed day.
And it came together. It came together with a couple little issues, but we worked it out.
Yeah, and I think that at least for us, we're going to be processing and integrating for a
A
while,
long time.
which is the perfect opportunity to do this 12-week program.
Mhm.
It's starts this Thursday night, 8 p.m. We can add the slide to the Facebook page
Yeah,
with the
it'll be on the Facebook
information.
page, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you don't have to do it's free. You don't have to, if you don't have a Healy, you don't have to buy one in order to join. You're just going to learn a lot. It's basically today, but broken up into much smaller bite-sized pieces. So I really do hope that if you enjoyed your time here, that you join us. We haven't said this the entire time, but if somebody invited you to this, or the recording, just ask them when it comes to if you're interested in learning more about Healy or getting your own, just go back to the person who invited you here and they will tell you how to do it, how to research it, how to purchase. And what else am I forgetting?
Just deep gratitude, deep gratitude. That was so much beautiful information. And we will be posting replays and websites and all that kind of stuff. We weren't able to kind of get to everyone on the Facebook page. And I know you guys have questions. So pop your questions in the Solstice Sync Up Facebook page if you have questions, and we will answer them as best we can and send you as much information as you need. And we're just so grateful for all of you, really.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
for making this vision a reality. I remember when it came fast. Well, we were watching a training and it just came and we were like, we have to do this. And it was like, okay, that's a lot of work, but we did it.
We did it.
And it was amazing. And I think that we helped a lot of people.
And
So.
all these amazing people that came on. Everyone came on. Everyone showed up. Everyone gave their genius. And it's just, our hearts are so full. We are so grateful.
So grateful that the Vibe Tribe is just like our soul people who we've known all. You know who Vibe Tribe people are? They're when you meet them and you know that you've known them for a really, really long time, but you just met them in this lifetime. That's the Vibe Tribe.
That is the Vibe Tribe.
And we're just so grateful for all of you. So we hope that you enjoyed the Solstice Sync Up. We hope that you're ready to move into the summer, feeling aligned and inspired. And like Mark said, ready to step into your genius in your life, because what the hell, that's why we're all here. And it's just time. I mean, it's literally time to show up as our authentic selves, and everything that's not authentic's gotta go. And now it's the opportunity, because you've got a support system here. So let's do this.
We're all doing it together, and let's all shine our light. We all need to come together and just help ourselves, our families, our communities, and the world. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anna.
It's been a beautiful day.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. We love you all.
Love you.
All right.
All
We
right,
will be
guys.
posting, so look out for emails and the Facebook group, and ask any questions you need to, and we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay.